A lot of Americans are remembering the Battle of Athens in August of 1946 in Athens, Tennessee. Veterans of World War II accused county officials of widespread political corruption. While the men had been off fighting the war, corrupt Democrats took over the county and set up voter fraud and vote control that crushed the citizens' ability to vote in candidates of their choice. Gee, that sounds familiar. Citizens were often subjected to threats and violence if they voiced their objections. The Democrat sheriff was pocketing money from organized crime operations that he allowed to operate, and the deputies were paid according to how many tickets they wrote, so that citizens were being charged with multiple crimes such as drunkenness, even if they weren't drinking. In one such incident, 2 GIs came home on leave and were shot and killed. And when the veterans came home from the war, they were determined to do something about the morally and ethically corrupt Democrat machine. The veterans put up their own candidates for election and called for fraud-free elections. Well aware of the Democrats' reputation for wrongly counting votes, the veterans demanded to observe all the vote counting. It was a tense situation. One veteran demanded that a ballot box that was being taken out be opened to show that they weren't stealing ballots. He was within his rights to ask that, but he was arrested and taken to jail. An elderly black man, Tom Gillespie, was blocked by one of the sheriff's men from depositing his ballot. And when he and one of the veteran poll watchers objected, the cop hit Mr. Gillespie with brass knuckles. Gillespie tried to run, but was shot in the back. Multiple incidents of violence convinced the veterans that they better arm themselves. They went to the National Guard Armory and took up rifles and headed back to the polls, only to find that the sheriff and his Democrat minions had made off with 3 boxes of ballots to the jail, where they could be counted in secret without any observers from the other side. Gee, that sounds familiar too, doesn't it? The veterans demanded that those ballot boxes be brought out where they could be counted, where everybody could see the votes, and when the Democrats refused, the veterans opened fire on the jail, resulting in a gun battle that went on for over an hour. Finally, they decided they had to breach the jail, and they used dynamite to blast it open. The Democrats surrendered, and the ballot boxes were recovered. And sure enough, the citizens had elected the returning veterans by a landslide. The Democrats' voter fraud scheme was foiled and the corrupt political thugs had been voted out. Nobody was killed during the battle, but there were some serious injuries. And I believe the only person who was convicted of a crime was the cop that shot Mr. Gillespie in the back. Authorities who investigated the incident ruled that the GIs were justified in assaulting the jail to recover those stolen ballots. Voter fraud destroys free nations. This is Wild Bill. Thank you for watching, and America, bless God again.